Hi, friends. So today I want to talk about a religious mistranslation, as I would call it, that I think is really low hanging fruit when it comes to improving ecumenical dialogues all around. That is the matter of how do we discuss what is necessary? So, when engaging in interreligious dialogue, especially but not exclusively in my conversations with Protestants, the matter of necessity frequently arises. Are the sacraments necessary? Is membership in the church necessary in a formal sense? Is accepting all of the Catholic teaching on Mary, is that all necessary? It's not always expressed so overtly, but the list of occurrences goes on and on. Well, on the one hand, I understand that we must focus on what's necessary, especially when we're talking about matters of a soteriological nature and other essential matters of the faith. But we must also be careful not to create a false dichotomy in the process, for that will only foster further confusion and foment division along with it. Determining the necessity of something isn't so simple as flipping a switch either. I think if we're honest with ourselves, we know this deep down. So, we must all make the effort to distinguish between the modes of necessity that we encounter in Catholic theology. Regardless of whether you're a Catholic or a Protestant, I think recognizing and applying the following distinctions will only serve to increase understanding on all sides. To make things simpler, I'd like to divide what is commonly referred to as necessary into three loose categories. And each of these categories will feature a gradation of contents. That is to say, the contents themselves can vary in terms of degree as well. So first up is the mandatory. Now, these are the elements of the Christian faith that are inflexible and closed for debate, like the deity of God, the redemptive power of Christ, the presence of sin, and so on. Then there's the normative. Now, these items are essential to the faith and, for most practical purposes, necessary for Catholics to uphold, even though God is not himself bound by the normative. Now, this includes everything from baptism and sacramental confession to Marian doctrines and beyond. And by baptism, I mean the formal sacramental baptism, for of course, the Church also teaches of a baptism of desire, but this is in itself an example of God working outside of the normative means. Now, finally, the third category we come to is the category of the ideal. These matters merit our attention, and because they are worthy, they merit our attention because they're worthy of belief and because the Church encourages them. But they're not strictly necessary, or at least not in a salvific sense. This would include praying the rosary and other preferred pious practices. So, roughly speaking, whenever a Catholic speaks of necessity, the concept fits into one of these three categories. Now, personally, I avoid the word necessary for anything in the ideal category. But I find that other Catholics, especially those who do not engage in ecumenical dialogue, are much less likely to distinguish between them. So I think it's important to remember that the third category is fairly common, at least in casual conversation. So if you are a Catholic engaged in conversation with Protestants, I would encourage you to be mindful of the potential confusion caused by an imprecise usage of the word necessary. If you are a Protestant speaking to Catholics, I would ask you to be mindful of the variations at play, because I believe this will help everyone understand each other better. Any serious ecumenical pursuit must be grounded in charity as much as truth, so let's actively try to avoid mistranslating each other. We'll all be better off for it.